Collision. Before you scroll away, pause for just one heartbeat and imagine this: a stage so bright it makes knees shake, judges who can end dreams with a single word, and a group of shy Filipino boys standing in silence, their hands trembling as millions watch. What happens next will give you goosebumps. And before the final note fades, remind yourself to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join a community that believes miracles are born from courage. Microphone Philippines. They stood backstage holding each other's wrists, not because they were told to, but because letting go felt impossible. They came from different corners of the Philippines, one from a fishing village where morning smelled like salt and diesel, another from a crowded Manila alley where music competed with traffic, another from the mountains where electricity flickered but dreams burned steady. They weren't superstars. They were boys who sang quietly into electric fans, boys who practiced harmonies while doing homework on cracked tables, boys who had been told more than once that dreams like theirs were meant for someone else. When their name was called, the lights swallowed them whole. The audience roared, but the sound felt far away. One boy swallowed hard, remembering how his voice used to disappear whenever he was asked to sing in class. Another felt his chest tighten, thinking of his father who had said, "Singing won't put food on the table," before kissing his forehead and leaving for work abroad. Their leader, the smallest among them, stepped forward, eyes wide but steady, carrying not just his own fear but all of theirs. The judges smiled politely, the way they do when they don't know what's coming. "Tell us about yourselves," one asked. The microphone felt heavy. He spoke about shyness, about being laughed at, about practicing in secret because confidence didn't come easy. The crowd softened. Everyone knows what it feels like to want something badly but be afraid to reach for it. Then the music began. The first note was gentle, almost fragile, like a confession. Their voices blended hesitantly at first, as if asking permission to exist. But something happened in that moment. A memory of nights singing together under dim lights, of correcting each other patiently, of choosing harmony over ego. Their sound grew stronger, fuller, rising like a tide. Shyness fell away with every measure. The audience leaned forward. The judges' expressions changed. One boy closed his eyes and sang the line that used to break him. His voice didn't crack. It soared. Another stepped into a solo, his tone rich with longing, telling a story of distance and hope that needed no translation. The harmonies wrapped around each other, precise and emotional, a reminder that unity can turn fear into power. Halfway through the song, the crowd erupted. People stood, hands over mouths, tears forming without warning. A judge whispered, "Oh my God," forgetting the cameras. The boys felt it then, the shift, the electricity, the moment when a dream stops being fragile and starts becoming real. They sang the final chorus not as shy boys, but as artists who knew they belonged. When the last note rang out, there was a second of stunned silence, then an explosion of sound. The audience leapt to their feet. Cheers crashed over the stage like waves. The boys froze, disbelief written across their faces. One covered his mouth, another wiped his eyes, another simply laughed, the kind of laugh that releases years of doubt. The judges stood too. Praise poured out, about courage, about heart, about how voices like theirs don't just entertain, they heal. One judge spoke about the power of authenticity, about how the world doesn't need perfection, it needs truth. Another pressed the golden buzzer, and time seemed to stop as gold confetti rained down. The boys clung to each other, crying openly now, no longer afraid to be seen. But the real story didn't end on that stage. Back home, families gathered around small screens. Mothers cried, fathers bowed their heads in pride, siblings screamed with joy. In barangays and cities, people shared the clip, saying, "They're like us." The boys became symbols of possibility. They went from practicing in secret to rehearsing under brighter lights, from doubting their worth to being reminded daily that their voices mattered. The journey wasn't suddenly easy. There were tougher songs, harsher critiques, exhausting rehearsals. There were nights when pressure crept back in, whispering old fears. But now they knew something powerful, that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's singing anyway. They leaned on each other, remembered where they started, and kept choosing belief over doubt. Every performance after carried more than melody. It carried the hopes of kids who were told they were too quiet, too poor, too ordinary. It carried the message that talent can come from anywhere, and that sometimes the softest voices shake the world the loudest. By the time their journey reached its peak, they were no longer just contestants. They were superstars, not because of fame, but because they proved that transformation is real. Shy boys became confident young men. Dreamers became doers. Voices once hidden became unstoppable. So if you're watching this with a dream tucked deep inside your chest, let their story remind you, where you start does not decide where you finish. Believe in your voice, even when it trembles. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Because somewhere right now, another shy voice is waiting for permission to be heard, and you might be the reason they dare to sing.